55.5%. That's how much of the average American family's income is now swallowed by just two things: housing and childcare. We're not talking about discretionary spending or a lavish lifestyle. We're talking about the absolute core necessities, and the data from the U.S. Census Bureau and the Economic Policy Institute, tracking through Q3 2023, shows this is a systemic squeeze far beyond what the official inflation numbers are telling you. This isn't just about rising prices. It's about a new, unacknowledged financial ceiling for the middle class, pushing homeownership and family planning out of reach for millions. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how deeply this number impacts your household budget. The raw costs, location by location, are shocking. Welcome back. Your paycheck is getting devoured, and it's not just groceries or gas. For the first time in recent history, the average American family is spending over half their pre-tax income on just housing and childcare. That's right, 50% gone before you even think about anything else. A recent analysis of 2023 census and Fed data, updated for 2024 and projected into 2026, reveals a startling squeeze that makes the inflation headlines look almost quaint. This isn't about discretionary spending. It's the absolute essentials. We're seeing families across major metros like Austin, Dallas, and Tampa now dedicating close to 35% of their gross income to housing alone, based on Q1 2024 Zillow rent and Redfin median sale price data. Combine that with childcare costs, which according to the Economic Policy Institute, can eat up another 15 to 20% for just one child in many states. This isn't just tightening belts. It's fundamentally reshaping the middle class, pushing the dream of homeownership and even basic financial stability further out of reach for millions. And the underlying mechanics are only accelerating this trend, creating a new income trap that few are talking about. Even with a projected median family income of $85,000 by 2026, half of that money vanishes before it even hits your bank account, leaving many families struggling to achieve financial stability. Let's break down this $85,000 myth using updated 2024 census data and conservative projections from the Economic Policy Institute. The average U.S. family, by 2026, is expected to earn around $85,000 annually. Sounds decent, right? But here's the gut punch. The combined average cost for housing and childcare for just one child is a staggering $48,000 per year. That's 56% of your median family income, leaving a mere $37,000 before you even consider food, healthcare, transportation, or anything beyond the absolute basics. Let's dissect that $48,000. Average annual child care for one child, according to recent analysis from Care.com and the Economic Policy Institute, hovers around $20,000 nationally, a figure confirmed by recent reports from the Center for American Progress. And average annual housing costs, that's your rent or mortgage, plus utilities, now sits at approximately $28,000, based on Q4 2023 Zillow and Fed data, reflecting a continued upward trend. So, for a family in, say, suburban Atlanta, earning that $85,000, $48,000 is gone immediately. Imagine a young couple in Phoenix, like the Millers, both working and bringing home $85,000. They're facing roughly $1,650 a month for childcare and $2,300 a month for their housing payment, not far off the metro's median rent according to Redfin. That's nearly $4,000 disappearing every single month. It's a shocking reality when more than half your income is committed to just these two categories, especially when compared to historical norms where these essentials consumed a much smaller percentage. Beyond the basics, what's left after the big two? So, what's left of that $85,000 for everything else? A paltry $37,000. And that's before we even talk about essentials like groceries, healthcare, or just getting to work. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics' 2023 Consumer Expenditure Survey, even a thrifty family spends roughly $600 a month on food. That's $7,200 annually, gone. Then there's healthcare. Even with employer-sponsored plans, families face rising deductibles, copays, and prescriptions. The average annual out-of-pocket health cost hit $5,500 in 2023 per the Kaiser Family Foundation. Factor in transportation. Think car payments, gas, maintenance. With the average new car loan now over $700 a month, as reported by Experian, that's another $8,400 a year for just one vehicle. And let's not forget student loans and credit card debts, which for many families are unavoidable. Nick Gurley of Reventure Consulting often highlights how these phantom expenses truly decimate discretionary income. We're talking about an additional $20,000 to $25,000 in non-negotiable expenses, quickly swallowing that $37,000. What does this leave? Often single-digit thousands, if anything at all, making it nearly impossible to save for an emergency, much less retirement or a down payment. Lawrence Yun, chief economist for NAR, has repeatedly pointed to this middle-class squeeze as a key factor in declining homeownership rates for younger generations. A family in, say, Tampa, earning the median income, is likely living paycheck to paycheck, facing constant financial stress. This isn't just about math. It's about the psychological toll, the inability to plan, and a reduced quality of life. But here's the kicker. This squeeze isn't felt equally across the country. This financial squeeze isn't evenly distributed. In some states, it's not just tight. It's mathematically unlivable for the average family. While the national average for housing and childcare eats up 50% of pre-tax income, states like Hawaii, Massachusetts, and California regularly see those costs jump to over 70%, according to a 2023 analysis by the Economic Policy Institute, updated for 2024. Think about that. 70 cents of every dollar, gone, before anything else. Take the San Francisco metro area. Even with a household income of $150,000, nearly double the national median, a family with 2 young children and a median-priced home is spending nearly 80% on just those 2 categories. What's left? Just $30,000 for groceries, transportation, healthcare, and every other expense in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Compare that to, say, Wichita, Kansas, where the same basket of housing and childcare might consume only 35 to 40% of a median income. This disparity isn't just an inconvenience. It's driving a significant brain drain. Skilled workers, even those earning 6 figures, are being forced to leave economically vibrant hubs like New York City and Boston, not because of job scarcity, but because the cost of basic living makes building a family financially impossible. This outflow, noted by demographers like William Fry at Brookings, impacts the very regions that need those professionals most. This geographic pain means families face an impossible choice: sacrifice their financial future or uproot their lives, often away from vital support networks like grandparents. And if you think that number for a single child is high, wait until we look at the double trap that nobody seems to mention. But here's the kicker. The financial squeeze isn't evenly distributed. In some states, it's not just tight. It's mathematically unlivable for the average family. While the national average for housing and childcare eats up 50% of pre-tax income, states like Hawaii, Massachusetts, and California regularly see those costs jump to over 70%, according to a 2023 analysis by the Economic Policy Institute. But what if you want to grow that family? The average cost of childcare almost doubles with a second child, creating a financial penalty few families can absorb. This is the 2-child penalty, a hidden cost that isn't openly discussed, but is crushing family finances and altering demographic trends nationwide. Let's look at the numbers. While a single child might push average childcare costs to around $20,000 annually, according to a 2023 report from Childcare Aware of America, adding a second child often rockets that figure to $35,000 to $40,000. So, for a family with 2 children, those combined housing and childcare costs, they surge to $63,000 to $68,000 annually. Do the math on that $85,000 median income we projected for 2026. This new total devours a staggering 74% to 80% of that pre-tax income. leaving an abysmal $17,000 to $22,000 for all other expenses. Think about that. Groceries, healthcare, transportation, clothing, even an emergency fund, all on less than $22,000. It's simply not feasible for most. We're seeing families like the Lees in Phoenix, both working professionals, grappling with whether one parent needs to leave the workforce because their two children's daycare bill is more than their mortgage payment. This two-child penalty is forcing tough choices. Delaying parenthood, one parent opting out of the workforce, or extreme austerity measures that erode quality of life. The broader impacts are profound. We're seeing declining birth rates, delayed family formation, and the perpetuation of the wealth gap as families struggle to grow or simply get ahead. So, why is this crisis intensifying now, and what underlying mechanisms are truly at play? So, with the average family having only $37,000 left for everything beyond housing, childcare, and taxes, why is this unsustainable squeeze happening across the U.S., and not in, say, Germany or France? It's not just inflation, it's a policy gap. The core driver behind these escalating costs is the stark lack of sufficient government subsidies for both childcare and housing compared to other developed nations. In the U.S., childcare subsidies typically cover a mere 10 to 20% of the actual cost for families. Contrast that with European countries, where it's common for governments to cover 50 to 80% of childcare expenses. This isn't just a small difference. It's the difference between a family paying $1,500 a month out of pocket for two kids in Austin versus potentially $300 to $600 in Paris. This critical gap forces American families into an impossible choice. Either rely heavily on extended family for childcare, delay major life milestones like having children, or, more often, take on crushing debt just to survive. According to a 2023 survey by Care.com, 72% of parents stated that childcare costs influenced their career decisions. This isn't a personal failing, it's a systemic design flaw. Then there's housing. The supply-demand mismatch, exacerbated by restrictive zoning laws and slow construction, drives up property values and rents relentlessly. We see this acutely in metros like Boise, where median home prices surged 55% from 2020 to 2022. Largely due to inadequate housing stock failing to keep pace with demand, as reported by the National Association of Realtors. Without public policy that incentivizes more supply or directly subsidizes housing like in Vienna, Austria, where over 60% of residents live in subsidized housing, the pressure on the average family's budget is only going to intensify. The long-term consequence of this policy vacuum is clear. A shrinking middle class, increasing wealth inequality, widespread financial instability, and ultimately, a potential future economic slowdown due to diminished consumer spending capacity. The system, as currently structured, is effectively eating its own seed corn. This isn't just about individual financial hardship. It's a systemic crunch threatening the foundational stability of the American middle class. When families are routinely spending over 50%, and in some metros, 70% of their pre-tax income on just two essential categories, it's not a market correction, it's a structural crisis demanding policy intervention. Without a deliberate shift towards more robust housing and childcare subsidies, we're not just eroding purchasing power, we're effectively pricing a significant portion of our workforce out of the American dream, a trend that's unsustainable for long-term economic growth and social mobility. The data from the EPI and Census Bureau are not just numbers. They reflect a looming generational divide. So, for those of you navigating these pressures, what's been your breaking point? Have you had to make impossible choices between housing, childcare, or even retirement savings? Share your experience in the comments below. If you want more data-driven insights on how these trends impact your bottom line and what potential solutions could look like, hit that subscribe button. And if you're wondering how this ties into the evolving investment landscape, you'll definitely want to watch my deep dive into how changing zoning laws in states like Florida are impacting developer incentives and, ultimately, your rent.